Do you remember episode 2 when we were talking about Palpatine when
Yeah, I was in a hotel. I was at the Beverly Hills Hotel. We had to re-record that episode.
we redid the whole thing?
It
I think that was the first ever big mistake I've ever made on
had no audio, right?
recording.
The
Yeah,
first one. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was painful.
I wanted to kill myself.
It was like an hour and a half too.
It was a good episode, and it was our second one, so we were like in it, getting in the groove still. I just remember like it's always those where like we've both been on both sides of it where you make just a fucked up mistake and you're like, shit. Like I remember with the whole Zoom stuff, how it cuts us off at 40 minutes a couple times. I didn't start recording for like the second half of our reactions.
Uh, I do
So
remember.
it
And you're
happened.
just like, mud. They just hear, and like, what do we have to? We have to go back. Sometimes it's like 20 minutes. We're like, son of a bitch.
I remember Bad Batch episode 1. That shit was 90 minutes long.
Hmm.
3 in the morning. Uh actually no, we were doing it at midnight because wait, no, it was 3 in the morning. And we got through the whole episode and I realized that I didn't screen record it with audio. So I had to re-screen record 90 minutes. So an hour and a half of me doing nothing when I could have
Uh,
been editing the whole time and getting it up.
dude. Bad Batch.
My dad loves the Bad Batch.
Really?
Loves it.
I don't know. Maybe it's because of season seven that it's just in comparison just isn't
Yeah.
it feels like an older Clone Wars arc.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, he loves it.
It's good. Don't I mean
Yeah.
by I mean I love the characters. I love
Yeah.
the Bad Batch, but I don't know.
No, he really enjoys it. All right.
All right, brother, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Its energy surrounds us and binds us.
Well, everybody, you got a sneak peek at the start of the podcast episode. So we appreciate you joining us today. We're recording this on Saturday, October 7th. So we're planning to get this out really soon, but you know how it is sometimes. So we really appreciate you coming back for another episode of the Carbonite Convos podcast. I don't even remember what episode this is because it has been another little bit, but
93?
I think we're at 90, maybe.
Something like that.
I think we've been stuck in the 80s for like 5, 6 months.
Yeah, well, we'll look after this. We're in the
Yep.
90-ish range.
Yep.
We're
Whatever.
getting to a hundo.
Yes, we'll have to do something big. But Ahsoka, the finale came out this week. As you know, Alec and I did reactions every episode. So if you want to go check those out, check them out on YouTube. Specifically, check out episode 5 because you'll see some grown man tears. But man,
Check
it
out
was
episode one of Loki while you're at it too. That just came out the other night.
yes, incredible. If you love Marvel and Star Wars, you gotta even if you don't watch our reaction, you gotta watch Loki. That was
Really good,
incredible.
really good,
Incredible.
really hot start to the season. So like I imagine it's just gonna be full of crazy.
Yep. Yeah, no, agreed. Agreed. But today we are focusing on Ahsoka. It was 8 episodes of just pure
Magic.
joy. Yes, like the real Disney magic, which is a hot take nowadays. But you know, I enjoyed every minute of it from episode 1 to the end of episode 8. So again, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'm ready to get started because I've been waiting to talk about this. Um,
Yeah, man. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I was gonna ask you like what your favorite episode was, but we already know it's episode 5
It has to be.
because
Yeah, I think that's
yeah,
inevitable. And I think that's for everybody. But let's go back a little bit. Let's just start from the very beginning. From the start, bro. The casting in this show was fantastic.
yeah,
Really freaking good. Sabine, like from the start, like if this was a continuation of Rebels season 5, right? The emo-ness of Sabine, I thought was
Emoness. I don't know that word.
emo-ness, like emo, like an emo
Oh, emo
person.
emo ness. All
Emo-ness.
right.
It's
Yeah.
not really a
Okay.
word, but
I thought you were.
emo-ness of Sabine, and like the pain she's feeling, the guilt, like all of that together. And for the progress of a show, typically you have a character like very reserved at the beginning, and then they open up more through the end. I thought with her, I thought the level of that was perfect. I just thought it was a really good job. The long hair I thought was interesting just because we know her with short hair. And I think it's symbolic, kind of like Kanan when he cut his hair, of coming back to the light a little bit, regaining that focus. I thought that was really cool. um Interesting to have found out that Ahsoka had given up on the training.
Yeah. What was funny about the whole show is it really. I think I expected something different than what we got, especially with the whole. After the first one or two episodes, that Master and Apprentice special. Did you watch that? It was like 7 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was nothing crazy. It was more just an informative thing. But I kind of thought that it was going to be more heavily focused on the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine. The show as a whole. Um, which I don't think it really was, which I don't think that's a bad thing. The show went the direction it did, and I think they did an incredible job. So I think I just expected more of Ahsoka and Sabine, uh, like training together.
Yeah.
Um, and that not a ton of that really happened. But at the same time, the time we did get with them together, you saw the difficulties, and throughout all of it, you saw. Mainly, I think Ahsoka grew more than Sabine did personally in terms of their relationship, because when she gave the star map to Balin,
Right.
I was thinking how could Ahsoka forgive her for that? But
That's
I
interesting you say that.
Yeah, I think Ahsoka grew much more than Sabine did. I think Sabine did her fair share of growth because she finally has the Force a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just seeing the way Ahsoka continues to grow in every single piece of media we get from her, I think she constantly surprises us. So for her to grow as a master and not as this rogue non-Jedi,
Warrior-esque thing. Yeah.
her grow as a master, I thought was really cool. And
Shadow Ninja.
Shadow Ninja, I think gives me a lot of hope on, a possible season 2, because I don't see how you could not.
Stupid to not have a season 2.
Well, just
Absolutely stupid to not have one, or at least a continuation of the show in some way, shape, or form in this
yeah,
Mando verse
can't
that
not,
is all relevant at the same time.
can't not. You have one of, if not the biggest villain from uh Legends coming over, which he's been in canon for a while now in Rebels, but making his live action appearance, he's now back in our galaxy.
Yeah.
He's now back in the main Star Wars galaxy. So that doesn't just go away, We I just
100%. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how he's involved with the Night Sisters moving forward. So I imagine Dathomir is going to be super, super relevant, which is a good chance of tying in Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. Like
Yeah.
right there, boom. I want to go back just 1 second because you made a really, really good point about Ahsoka's growth and her as a master. If you, to me, her development throughout the Clone Wars, Rebels, everything, right? She never finished her training. She never finished her training. And part of the growth cycle for me is learning how to teach, right? Like you do all these things, you fail, you learn, you grow, you blah, 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 blah. You do all these things. And at a young age, you are not able to teach that. But you get older, you gain wisdom, you gain those failures of trying to teach, and you learn how to do it in the right way. And to your point, I completely agree with you. To them not training at all in this season, I I feel you on that, but I don't mind it because now that they're on this planet by themselves, that is all they're going to be doing. And I
Yeah.
imagine if there is a season 2, that'll be a huge focus early on because they have no choice but to get strong. They got to figure out a way to get out of there, and they got nothing else to do.
No, you're exactly right. And I think, I don't think it's a bad thing that we didn't get a lot of training because all of the whole riff, or is that the word? Riff raff?
What?
Not the whole riff. The whole riff between them was it happened off screen. But
Oh, yeah. Okay.
it's still a good story. So I don't think we necessarily need to see what happened before her early training days with Ahsoka, all of that.
Mhm.
Their issues happened off screen. And this was, but we didn't even know they had issues before watching the show. I didn't know that they had this strained relationship of a master that gave up on her apprentice, So going into the season, I just expected a very good relationship out of Ahsoka and Sabine, and we would see them working together to get Ezra and Thrawn, and they did, and defeat Thrawn, which they did work together. But trying to tie it in. Yes, we're gonna get the training moving forward, which is nice. I don't think that it was a negative thing that we didn't see it here because I don't think Ahsoka season 1 was about that. Even though that's what I expected it to be about, it
Mhm.
wasn't. It's not like they let me down. It was just that's what I was expecting. We got something different. Ahsoka season 1 was not about Ahsoka training Sabine how I thought it would be. It was about them repairing their relationship from their early fallout, which I'm fine
Uh,
with because now they're back and the future's bright.
100%. The last kind of point I'll make about that is like with her never finished her training, and now it really is finished. We saw everything with Anakin, which holy shit, we'll get into that here in a second because that's a whole thing on its own. But she
I say we
finished
get
it,
some
and
other stuff first because
okay,
we start talking about it.
that's too hot. It's way too hot. We'll come back to it. Okay, okay.
Uh,
All right. Let's move real quick into. You want to go more into like episode 2 or anything else more specific?
I mean, I don't really 100%. All right. Before we get into episode 2, episode 1 was left. It would have been a cliffhanger if we didn't get episode 2 the same night.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny to see nowadays in Star Wars how Qui-Gon gets stabbed right in the gut, dies on scene. And yet, how many is this that we've seen get stabbed in the gut now and have lived? We saw
Like 8.
the Grandmaster, Riva,
Mm-hmm.
Sabine, Ben.
Maul.
Maul gets chopped in half. Ben Solo.
Mm-hmm.
And Rey healed him, so that's a little bit different.
Which at the time that was the first time we saw force healing. We're like, what?
Yeah.
What? Like,
Gun's looking down like, what the fuck is this? What is that? He's looking at Obi-Wan like, you motherfucker. But I just thought there was. I don't think they can keep stabbing people in the gut and expecting us to be like
cool with it.
no, because
Did you say the Grand Master? Do you mean Grand Inquisitor?
yeah.
I for a minute I was like, wait, what? Grand Master?
My champion.
Yeah.
No, Grand Inquisitor. Stabbing people in the gut does not have the weight in Star Wars that it once had.
I agree.
It's fine, but they can't expect us to keep getting surprised by it.
Sidebar, real quick. Side note. Yo, why is lightsaber combat sort of taking a step back? Like there were some really good fights in this, and like you even made a good point during some of the reaction, like, oh, that choreography was really good. But why prequel fights were just on a different level? For why?
I think there's so much which you and I are two of the biggest Star Wars fans I know.
Yeah.
But I'd be lying to you if I knew all the 7 types of lightsaber combat, all the lore behind all that. But the thing that I kind of think about, it's, well, number one, we have not seen a ton of lightsaber fights recently. I think early on in episode 1, we were talking on the reaction, and we had to calculate, like, when was the last time we saw a lightsaber on lightsaber, and it was in The Rise of Skywalker. I don't really know about the sequel trilogy. What happened with those lightsaber fights? I did enjoy them because they were just different. They weren't as cutthroat, just as we were
It's
used
more
to.
just aggression.
Yeah, but I did still like them because they were different. But with Ahsoka, I wouldn't necessarily taking it as such a step back. I I kind of view Ahsoka's fighting style and just the lightsaber, specifically in Ahsoka, the lightsaber battles that we saw here, as much more calculated and intense isn't the right word. Just much more calculated than Obi-Wan,
Yeah,
than Duel of the Fates, Battle of the Heroes. They're more calculated. They they read each other a little better instead of just going ham on each other, if that makes sense.
yeah. Well, that is one thing we do know about Ahsoka specifically is that she's a defensive fighter.
Hmm.
Very good. That's why she uses the double blades, and she uses what's the little one called? There's a specific name for her little lightsaber.
I didn't know that.
She
Oh,
calls it something different.
oh,
Widowy, her widow lightsaber.
we? Yeah, I don't know. I think the lightsaber. I really did enjoy them though. Like I thought her fight specifically with Balin was awesome, just because it was slower. But man, he's coming at her full force. She's having to throw her leg up on a wall behind her so she won't get thrown.
Bro, I love Balin's saber.
Yeah, it's
That
so.
it's like a two-handed greatsword, right? So like it's like just you know what I'm talking about?
I'm gonna quote my man Shrek on this. Do you think he's overcompensating for something?
I love
God,
that,
he's got
bro.
a giant lightsaber, like
Dude,
just the hilt
it's
in general.
okay. We got to talk about that for a sec, man.
What? Yeah, no,
It,
rest in peace for sure. And
it sucks.
he killed the role.
Dude, that sucks.
Absolutely.
Like let's for one sec. Like, yes, this is a person. Like, it's so unfortunate. Like that's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But as a
But
character on the screen, dude, that sucks.
what sucks?
It
Oh,
just
yeah,
sucks that
that he's
they,
gone.
it's he
And
was genuinely one of the coolest characters I think
yeah,
we've seen in a while.
yeah. And is it doing a disservice to the character and to Ray Stevenson to recast the character? Because the unfortunate part is there's there's so much more that this character needs to do, and not
Hmm.
saying that anybody else could play him as
No.
Ray did, because I don't think they could. He did an incredible job and he made that character his own. But do you think Ray would want somebody to continue on with this character?
See,
I
I
don't
don't.
know.
I try to put myself in the situation of being dead, right? Like, just like if I was, would I personally want that? Probably. Would my family want that? I don't know.
Exactly. And I think that's a much bigger conversation that I don't know if Dave and John Favreau go to the family and explain to them, like, and kind of get their permission first. Not not that they need it, not
Hmm.
that they legally need their permission to go on with this character and recast, but in a respect type of way, say like, hey, this was our plan for this character. We chose your father or your husband or your grandfather because we saw him embodying this character. Even though he's gone, this character, there's more of this story to tell. It won't be the same performance, but there's more to tell. And they have more experience than that in that realm than I do. So
Oh, right. I'm
yeah.
sure they're very convincing, and I'm sure money does talk.
Yeah, but
So
this
you never know.
but not
Um,
need to pay either way. I don't know, but either way, yes, he killed it. I can't remember the actress's name that played Shin. She killed it too. I think
she didn't blink but one time that
gotta go
entire series.
gotta go back and count, because I think you said she blinked once. I think you when you were editing one time, you said, "Hey man, found my first blink." So she was so intense throughout the entire series. I didn't know what was going on.
I don't see her if she is relevant moving forward.
She will be
I kind of feel her coming back a little bit
too.
towards the good side. I don't
Yeah.
know especially at the end right there with how she kind of just like was looking from a distance. I don't know. It didn't seem evil.
Looking from a distance at what?
I forget what was she doing right there at the
I
end. She had
thought,
her saber.
well, she kind of went to that band of
Mm,
marauders,
mm-hmm.
and it looks like she was going to lead them. I don't know, lead them to what, but I hope she comes back. She's a pretty dope character.
100%.
But yeah, no, I think everybody nailed their respective roles. Let me ask you this. Who do you think had the toughest job playing their character, like embodying that character, bringing I don't think it would be Balin Skull or Shin or what is the lady's name again that got Kurt?
Elizabeth
Morgan Elsbeth.
Morgan Elsbeth.
Close.
Close. Yeah.
I don't think it's any of them. None of the new characters. I don't think it's them. Like they had a blank slate, so they
Yeah.
could make their own.
It
Out
was
of
Sabine or Ezra, no question.
Ahsoka, Sabine, Ezra, Thrawn, Hera, who
Ooh,
do
I
you
didn't think about those. Okay.
think had the most difficult time
I think
being of the?
Thrawn had the easiest. No,
Uh,
Thrawn had this easy. Ahsoka had the easiest time because she's relevant at this point. I think Rosario Dawson is established.
maybe go back to when Rosario took over Ahsoka.
Okay, like when her first appearance. Remember that when she showed up in the forest, like out of nowhere? That was sick.
That was our
That
action.
was our first reaction. Yeah. Okay.
Realistic.
Okay. So if that's the case, I think Thrawn had the easiest time.
I agree.
It's the same voice.
Not that it was easy. So I don't insult
Not
them.
by any means.
Not that it was easy, but
the least difficult.
Yeah, he already had the character down. Yes, same voice. Dude knew what he was about. He'd been playing him.
Right.
I
so
agree.
like exactly. He knew he could express the emotion of that character to the perfect extent and better than anybody else could, right?
Just to finally get the physicality down of it. Because instead of recording his voice and
he just has to move around and do the mannerisms, right? That's it. That's the extra. Between Ahsoka, between Ezra, and between Sabine, I don't think Hera. I don't think
Hera.
I would put Hera next on that list.
I don't know. She is a fully grown. She's a fully grown woman, completely adulting already.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't know. It seems like you could just kind of. Maybe I'm underestimating it. I think she would be easier to pick up than these other ones because she doesn't have the baggage that Ahsoka has. She's not. Last time we left Ezra, he was a teenager. It's not a character that grew 10 years and some of the most crucial 10 years of their life. It's not a boy becoming a man. It's not Sabine who has. Not saying Hera doesn't have trauma because she does, but Sabine's just younger. She's becoming a Jedi. She has more on her plate than being, a general. So I agree. I feel like she could pick up the reins a little easier.
I am not an actor and I am not claiming to know anything about acting, but I'm simply guessing and making an assumption here. I would assume that acting serious is easier than being comical. Just on a general scale.
Yeah.
Hera is not as funny as a character as these other ones.
Oh,
not as witty. She's a little bit more direct.
Yeah, she's very stern.
Mm-hmm. So I think maybe once the act, what's her name? Obi-Wan's wife.
It's Kenobi.
Yeah, I know, right? Once she figured out, that one streamline, all right, cool. I think we're good. So that's why I would put her next.
Yeah,
when you look at these other three characters, they're all witty, they're all sarcastic, they make these remarks, you know what I mean? Which Hera does sometimes too. Again, we're not saying that it's an easy role. It's just the weight of it is different.
Yeah, it seems like she's a much more cut dry character. She's a general.
Mm-hmm.
can watch. She doesn't change much from Rebels to now. So you can literally pick up where Rebels left off.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm playing the role, not much has changed for her. The Empire's gone. She has a new role where she's not a rebel anymore. She's in the actual government. So it changes a little bit, but it's not Sabine where you've gone through Jedi training. You have a master that failed you. You have to cope with losing your entire family, your best friend. It's not Ahsoka where you pretty much ditched your Padawan. You have just the weight of being a
Of the weight of everything, like
okay.
Ahsoka. Again, this is a side conversation kind of, but Ahsoka has the guilt and the weight of her master and what happened to him on her.
Exactly. And it's still very prevalent. So
Yes.
that's very different. And then you have Ezra, which again,
The last time we saw him, he made the bit we thought could be the ultimate sacrifice.
yeah, did you go from this? He was still a boy. He
Right.
was young, like he matured a lot
He's a
throughout.
teenager. He's a young teenager at that
Yeah,
point.
he's not a man yet.
Mhm.
So you go from that. What is this, like 10 years later?
About
10 years later, he's by himself with these turtle people for 10 years.
yeah.
So there's just a lot more to pick up on. Like you said, the wittiness, getting that character down who has more of a personality, I would say, than Hera.
Mhm.
I would assume that would be a little more difficult. So out of those three, so we got Thrawn, Hera. Who do you think's next?
And then we got Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine. That's a hard one. I don't know. Who do you got next? This is hard right here because I would argue probably Sabine.
Really, really.
I'd probably go Sabine next.
I was thinking Ezra.
Really? Why is
Hera,
that?
you were I'm trying to put it into words. You were comparing like Hera and the others as opposed from being comical and being serious. But I
Mhm.
also think on top of that, because Hera's just serious, Ezra is more comical, but then you have Sabine, who, yes, she's serious, but she has so much more emotional baggage that I feel might be, again, not knowing anything about
Fair.
acting, it might be harder to convey that than it would be for an actor to pick up and kind of be able to be witty and stuff, because they hired, I can't remember his name, the guy who played Ezra. They hired him because I'm sure he's a witty guy in person. I'm sure he kind of has that personality already. But Sabine, I feel like it would just be a little bit difficult with how much more emotion is involved. So I would say Ezra would be next.
Okay, I would actually agree with you there. That makes I like that point.
Then you got Ahsoka and Sabine, which I don't.
Sabine, Ahsoka. I think if we're talking at the time when Ahsoka came in, this was when she was getting introduced. So she was the first one,
Who?
right? Ahsoka. So she was the first one to be introduced of all
Oh,
these people that we're currently talking about and the Rebels crew. So this was Dave Filoni's baby,
yeah.
right? And so I'm sure there was so much more pressure and the fact that it was secret, right? So if it did stink, then it would really stink.
Yeah, she had more weight because of I agree. I agree. I was kind of thinking Sabine might have been the hardest, but yeah, with the weight of the character, because if I
We
think,
saw this character introduced as a baby
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, we've seen
in Tales of the Jedi, but ultimately when she's a young girl and introduced to Anakin Skywalker as Anakin Skywalker's Padawan for the first time.
right. There's so much more weight in our world on Ahsoka than there is on Sabine. So
That came out 15 years ago, 18 years
yeah,
ago.
15 years ago on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she had a lot more pressure to make Ahsoka work than Sabine has, because although Sabine's a beloved character as well, she doesn't really compare to Ahsoka in terms of weight, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
That was a good list. I think I don't know. I think we were pretty spot on with each.
I agree.
While we're talking about, people playing the characters, I'll admit when I first saw Ezra, I wasn't completely sold. I know you were sold right off the bat after the first episode where he was in it
Well,
for
the first thing he said, some took you long enough
yeah.
or some shit. I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah, which it is. I think I just wasn't sold on it enough yet. I think kind of the beard might have done it for me.
Mm.
But also the dude's been away for 10 years. I know he's going to look a lot more scruffy.
Yeah.
So I get that.
They don't have razors.
Yeah.
So you don't even have a lightsaber. You can't
Didn't have a
use
lightsaber.
anything.
So I think it just took a little longer for me to. It's kind of like the whole Anakin Vader thing. Like, are they the same person? Like, is that really Anakin in there? Like, that's it. It's hard thinking like that's the same person.
Mhm.
Because the look was so different. I was like, that doesn't feel like Ezra. But then in the next episode, and I said that on the reaction as well. As the episode went on, I was like, all right, yeah, that's him. He's doing a really good job.
100%, man.
Yeah.
I would very much agree. All right, so let's kind of like back it up a little bit. So we've met Ezra at this point. Before this, we were introduced to Thrawn for the first time, the Night Sisters, and then these new troopers.
Yeah. Here's a question. We know that the troopers were what's the word?
Enchanted.
Yeah. Like after Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine ran through them. But
Mhm.
I'm curious, were they already enchanted too? Because I thought they were. And then obviously they came back to life through the Night Sisters magic. But I wonder if before that they were actually alive.
I would
Not
imagine
that it
it
matters,
probably a
but
combination.
you think?
Well, I don't know. What are they eating
I'm sure there's food on the. I'm sure
on the
there's
planet?
animal. Yeah,
Something. Yeah, true.
I'm sure that.
Um,
Yeah.
I would imagine some would be alive. Some would have survived.
Can you imagine being like one of the alive ones? Being like, you were just you were just working for the Empire, just a stormtrooper. You're in the army. You're in the infantry. You get blasted out to another galaxy with space whales all around you, and then you have dead coworkers. You meet these three freaky chicks, and then suddenly all your boys, because I assume a lot of them were boys.
Probably
Some of your boys are back to life, and they're just
possessed.
zombies now. Like
Dude,
that would be very, very weird.
that whole concept is wild. Because one, how do you stop that? Dude, Merrick was a lightsaber wielder.
Yeah.
Blessed by this. Like, holy shit. Like, to me, there's no limit to where that stops.
Yeah. You got to get rid of the Night Sisters. You got to
get rid of the Night Sisters. And I'm really glad they're doing this as these villains, because they've never really been talked about that much. Like in a couple arcs here and there, and a little bit in Fallen Order. But dude, they are wild. What was the girl's name in Fallen Order? The Night Sister. I can't remember her name.
I don't know. Jedi Survivor cast. Damn it. It's
I think she's really cool.
Survivor character. Marin.
Okay, Marin.
Yes, she is really neat. Yeah.
I saw a theory, or like, I mean,
Yeah.
of all the people that could stop them, it'd be her.
Yeah. Dude, there are so many ways to incorporate these games now and these characters. There are so many ways. They're already doing it. The hints are right before our eyes. It's incredible.
That's the beauty of digital media, is you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yep.
You can do whatever you want. And now with this technology, and who knows where it's going to be in like 5-10 years, they can damn near do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Live action.
Agreed. We already talked about like Dathomir's coming back. There's
Getting back Maul. They're just kidding. No.
I'd like to talk about the whole Mortis stuff.
I was waiting for that one.
Or we get into
Oh
Anakin.
my God. No. Well, let's get into Anakin first because I think that's more relevant about the conversation.
Okay. I was gonna say he's the creme de la creme. Like he like finish off with the best. But yeah,
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do it.
no, it all I guess it all ties in.
It's all the same conversation.
It kind of goes back to Balin Skull. We had no clue what his motives were the entire time. And at the very end, the last we saw of him, he's standing on a gigantic Lord of the Rings style monument of the father. The son's right next to him, and the daughter is conveniently missing. And I don't know. I don't think I'm smart enough to kind of piece together what that could mean.
I got goosebumps.
I don't know, but the father, the son, the daughter, they are the living embodiment. Well, not living, kind of living embodiment of the balance, the dark, the light, and the balance. So it just means I think so much moving forward.
Bro, what's so crazy about this? What we know, the daughter gave up her life to save Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Ahsoka is the embodiment of the light, and Morai is the sister's spirits of the sort, right? So we saw Morai immediately after that, which I thought was really cool. That we saw Morai live action, and it looked a little bit more like a bird rather than like a fat little puffy thing.
Yeah, because I think in when we saw Morai in Mando, it looked more like an owl.
Yeah,
it does look like an owl in.
But it looked more like a regular, like skinnier, longer bird. I don't know.
I think this time it looked more like Morai.
Yeah, so we know that for a fact. Dude, I really think they're going in the direction that Anakin Skywalker is truly the chosen one. Because we go back to the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars, bro, and he told him what his destiny was. He said what his destiny was. There was nothing he could do to change it. You will bring balance to the Force.
So
you will bring balance to the Force. I am dying. Your destiny is to replace me. It didn't happen. It didn't happen then.
Yeah.
It didn't happen then. Him becoming Vader was him denying his destiny. And when he ultimately met his fate, when Luke took his mask off and he passed away, he became a Force ghost there on Endor. That was him replacing the father. You can't tell, dude, you can't tell me that's not what Dave's going for here. If there's anybody on the planet besides George Lucas that would fight for that to happen, it's him. Right?
Yeah. When we talk about Star Wars, I always know what you're talking about. But I don't think there's ever been a time where I've been more like impressed, being like, holy shit, Alec makes too much sense right now. Like, no, that was awesome. Like,
yeah, boy.
I agree. So
to me, it's inevitable that Ahsoka, once she meets her fate, who knows when or where, that she becomes part of that. She becomes part of the living force and rebalances that.
You think of the sequel trilogy and how everybody is so up in arms because Palpatine died in Return of the Jedi. He comes back, Rey kills him along with all the other Jedi, and then people think that killing Palpatine is what's bringing balance to the Force. But I think after hearing you say that whole argument is looking at this thing in such a linear way when Mortis, the world between worlds, just the Force in general, it's not a straight line. It's not Palpatine's gone, Force balance. That's not how it is. It's so many chain reactions, but also so far outside of just a yearly chronological timeline. You know what I mean? Because all this stuff, Mortis is outside of time. Father, son, daughter, outside of time. Anakin, when he died in Return of the Jedi, at this point, he's outside of time and space. He's outside of that. So, like you said, his death, yes, he is still the chosen one. And I think it's cool to see how the whole argument about, oh, now they're making Rey the chosen one. Dave Filoni has kind of been able to take that back and work outside of time and space to make it to where, no, she's not taking anything away from,
No,
but Anakin is truly the chosen one who will bring balance to the Force.
dude, it makes me question the scene where Ben finally kills Maul on Tatooine, and
Yeah.
and Maul's dying there in his arms. Is he the chosen one? He is. He will avenge us, or whatever the exact words are.
Mm-hmm.
We always ask, is he talking about Luke right there? Like, we don't know, but to me that just adds more into the fact, because Maul knew about the Veil of the Force. He knew, I think he was on to how all this stuff worked, right? That's what it made it seem like in Rebels. He was way too smart for his own good. I have a question about Palpatine.
let me
Okay,
can
go
I
ahead. Go. Yeah.
I don't know if this will get us into hot water or anything, but have you ever thought maybe like Darth Maul is like the Star Wars version of Kanye, where not like Kanye makes any sense, but some of the things he says, like he talks about like death and stuff. I'm like, I've never thought of that kind of stuff that way. It's like, do you know something I don't? Um, he's
Valid question.
like the Star Wars Kanye, where he just says so much random shit that you're like,
What are you
what do
talking about?
you just said kind of actually, no, you said too smart for his own good. I don't know if Kanye's too smart for his own good. Like
Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe that's why he says dumb stuff.
I don't know. I love Kanye's music. And now we're having to backtrack because like, I don't want people to start thinking that we support everything Kanye says, because that's not the case. I don't know why. It was just like when I've watched videos of Kanye talking, I'm like, okay, you sound like a lunatic, but some of the things you're saying kind of make sense.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
in
I
terms
got
of
you.
like living and dying and stuff like that. I was
Mhm.
like, what is this dude? What is this dude on? Um, but you were gonna say something right after Maul, and I just cut you off.
So with Palpatine,
Yeah,
okay, so somehow Palpatine returned. Let's go to the episode of Rebels where Ezra pulls Ahsoka into the Veil of Force, saves her life during the Vader fight, which to me is top tier Star Wars. So I'll say it a million times. I've said it on here a
yeah.
million times before. When they see Palpatine in there, dude, to me, he looks a little different in that. I know it's because it's its only appearance in Rebels, really, but he looks significantly darker, older, like more wrinkly.
Dang.
To me, it's just I feel like it'd be easy for him to walk through the Veil of the Force and then show up in Rise of Skywalker on Exegol, right? Like he could basically just do whatever he wants with that. That's kind of like
But
where I see the Veil of the Force going with that particular thing.
I also thought that they kind of explained it in Rebels why he couldn't get in. I can't remember why, but there was some reason why Palpatine couldn't walk around in there like well, yeah, Anakin, but at the time how Ahsoka and Ezra were in there. I could be wrong, but that would kind of make it make sense why he doesn't just go and do this stuff throughout time. But I thought they explained it like he wasn't able to get into the Veil of the Force. That's why he's trying to pull Ezra out, because Ezra can. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Could be wrong, but I thought that was kind of why Palpatine couldn't do all of these things.
It's interesting to me because like when we first met Ezra, like as this annoying little kid, very similar to Ahsoka, he has the potential to be probably the strongest Jedi we've seen up to this point.
Not more than Anakin, though.
I don't know. But
No,
maybe not.
I don't
the-
think they'll ever make any.
Maybe not as strong, but of a importance because Anakin never had the connection to nature.
Yeah,
Anakin's midichlorian count was like off the
the
charts, and his
better.
ability and his strength within the Force itself was great. But what Ezra is bringing to the table, bro, he has this connection to the universe, to these animals, to the Force and within itself at such a young age
Yeah,
that who knows what he learned in his isolation.
hmm
That once he's going to continue to grow, bro, I don't know. To me, he's getting set up to be one of the best.
Yeah. So I think when I heard you immediately say that, I automatically went to like the most powerful Jedi, which I think Anakin always will be, just because of
Yeah.
who he is. He is Star Wars. But in terms of what it's like to be a physical, um, alive Jedi on, not on Earth, but like on, just alive, not in the astral plane like Black Panther, not in the world between worlds, none of this stuff. Like what it is like to be a an alive Jedi working with the Force in the physical
In real
realm.
time.
Yeah, in the physical realm, I do think you could be right, because there's not many out there. There's
Right.
not many out there right now.
And with what, like, to me, he's going to, in the future, Luke Skywalker will always be the GOAT, classic, one of the main
Yeah,
characters, right? But in his importance to the galaxy, what he did for the galaxy, Ezra is ultimately going to be potentially bigger, man. And it's just in the fact that what he's
I
going
don't
to bring to
know.
the table as far with he's going to end up bringing Thrawn down. I think it's inevitable that happens, right? Which to the galaxy, what was a bigger threat, Palpatine and Vader or Thrawn? I don't know. They're both damn huge. But Ezra himself is going to fill in a lot of these gaps within the story because of his connection to these things. And as viewers, we are going to learn a lot about how the Star Wars galaxy and universe works through him. That's what I see happening. And that's why I think he's, as far as like relevancy and importance in the Star Wars universe, that's why I think he's going to be up there.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I think it's also just like where do you go from here? Because we also have to think of the fact that all of this whole story they're building has to conclude before the sequel trilogy. You know, so Thrawn has to be gone. Ezra, Ahsoka, maybe Ezra, Ahsoka. Now that Sabine's a Jedi, I think they have to be, their story has to be wrapped up, you know, because it just wouldn't make sense why they wouldn't have been there in the Rise of Skywalker. So I don't know.
Well,
It's,
we know the ghost was there.
yes, we do. So that's why I was like, you know, Hera could have been there. I just have a hard time believing that if there was a Jedi alive other than Rey, they would have been able to help with Palpatine, help with just the entire sequel story. You know what I mean?
Maybe at that point, I mean, Ezra will be back, but Ahsoka and Sabine could still be on this planet.
And here's the thing. Am I a little worried about it? Yeah. Like, do I have reservations about it? Yes. But I do trust that I think it is in the right hands, which is good. I think it seems like they've given Dave almost full reins.
Right. As they freaking should.
If they ever messed up the relationship with him, that would be detrimental to the Star Wars name.
Dude,
and that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
At what point does Dave pick someone? Kind of how George Lucas picked Dave. At what point does Dave find someone to start mentoring? Because George found Dave prior to 2008. It's almost 20 years. Almost 20 years ago. Dave was really young, so he's got to start. You know, at some point, he's now the master. He just needs an apprentice.
I wonder if it would be someone like Matt Lanter or something like that. Do you think the relevance,
I don't
is that
know.
too weird of an actor becoming it? I just feel like he is someone who's super passionate and knows the shit.
I think he has to find someone younger, and they have to be able to tell the story. You know, not know the past story. They have to be able to tell
that's a different skill.
Although I do think, and I don't know, maybe Matt could. I don't know him.
You don't know Matt? Matt's a good dude.
Great dude. Wait, are you talking about Sam Witwer? Matt Lanter, who played Anakin, or Sam Witwer, who played like Maul and
Matt Lanter.
Really? Why him?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Sam Witwer this whole time because Are you sure
Oh shit! No, I am talking about Sam
Okay,
Witwer.
yeah, because I was like, I've never seen like video, like we've seen plenty
No,
of
you're right. I'm sorry.
we're like talking about Star Wars and all this, but I've never seen one about Matt
No, you're right. I was thinking of the time because what was the scene they were talking about? I saw a clip about it.
with Padme.
Yeah, where they're talking about Anakin's like, I want to meet your mom, blah blah blah,
And
or I want you to meet my
Anakin,
mom.
well, no, so Shmi was dead at this point, and he
Right.
said like, I would have loved like something along the lines of, I would have loved for you to meet her. And this was in the Clone Wars, and that's when Sam stepped up and told Dave in like the writing room, like, well, we can't do that because they have met. And I guess he said that's the only time he's ever seen Dave get kind of out Star Wars,
Yeah,
which
that's what Ashley Eckstein said. I've never seen Dave
yeah,
out nerded or some shit. That's what I was thinking of.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. At some point, he's gotta find find someone to take the reins when he's too old. How great would it be for George to have some type of hand in the pot, just moving forward?
Oh,
That'd be
I
awesome.
mean, at the end of the day, I think he ultimately will a little bit. Like, I think they're always going to go to him and just like,
Yeah,
hey, man, what you
especially
think,
Dave. I'm sure Dave goes to George like private.
Dad?
Yeah, he's like, hey man, what do you think of this?
Yeah,
You made this. Um, we did talk about Anakin, but we didn't just talk about. I think,
just about his appearance in
yeah,
general.
I feel like we've done this episode of the podcast. We did a good job at like, I don't know. Usually we're like, oh, that was awesome. This was cool. This was cool. But I feel like we were able to like stay on a clear path
Yeah,
thus far, talking about everything we did, the future, the past, the present, all this stuff of Star Wars. But we haven't been able to just just fucking nerd out about how awesome it was just having Hayden Christensen come back in Clone Wars armor with Darth Vader's lightsaber,
bro.
and just have these relived scenes that we saw in Clone.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
The cliffhanger where we saw him for the first time, the CGI on the face, I was underwhelmed.
Oh, really?
However, similar to like what you were saying earlier about like not feeling
Yeah.
Ezra right away, I
Really?
wasn't feeling it right away. I was like, oh my god, that's so cool, he's back. But like something about his facial expression, I just didn't love it. However, episode 5 completely changed my mind.
So what I think about that is in Kenobi when they did like the flashbacks to Obi-Wan and Anakin training, they really didn't de-age Anakin. So Anakin's supposed to be like what, like 19 or something at this point.
And he looked old. He did.
Looks like a 40-year-old man.
Right.
So I think in the Veil of the Force, World Between Worlds, I think in all of that, they had to put Anakin, they had to make him look very young.
Well, they put him at what he was when he was his truest self.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm sure, and we're gonna get into some spiritual shit here real quick. I feel like in whatever afterlife, if you have a physical representation, no matter what beliefs you have, it would be at your truest and most prime self.
Yeah, I mean that's fair to assume.
You know what I mean? So like I assume that's the same thing with Anakin here. So and that's also how he looked in his Force Ghost on Endor in Empire Strikes Back. So I assume he had to look kind of similar. But dude,
Oh, you're
that
exactly.
whole freaking thing from start to finish, the dialogue, the emotion, like holy shit. He's hey Snips. No, right, no way.
Yeah.
No way.
I remember the moment. So we see Anakin and Ahsoka battling up there, and then he just shatters the glass, right? I remember the moment. Sorry, I got Bucky right here, and he's like pecking at something. It's weird. I remember the moment that Ahsoka fell, and I remember she's on the ground, and then I see her get up, and
You said, yeah.
I immediately knew. I was like, that is not Rosario Dawson. Like that is a young Ahsoka. And at that point, I think I just realized what was
You hear onward.
yes, what was about to happen. Holy shit. Rex popping up. I wish he would have been in it a little more. Not that I don't know if there really was a place for him to be in it, but it was cool seeing him. The Siege of Mandalore, just so many crucial moments. It was awesome.
Dude, him in his armor, which looked
Yeah.
so freaking cool. Seeing
Yeah.
live action clones for the first time.
Yeah, because
That was awesome.
some stocky clones. Like they looked. I don't know that. Well, first time we've ever seen them in action. We
Right.
kind of saw them in Andor like quickly,
Right, but they're old
like
and
saw them like this. That was
sick. And the fact we saw Rex and we saw, dude, as people on the internet were pointing this out, and I completely agree. That really put into perspective how young Ahsoka was through the whole time, through Clone Wars. Like
agreed.
even in season 7, she seemed older. And she's hardened and veteran at that point, even though she's only, she's like a young teenager.
Yeah.
But God, seeing her as a person, she looked like a baby.
Yes. And I think the girl did a great job. It's the girl that
100%.
Barbie played young Gamora. I think she did a great job playing her.
100%.
Dude, yeah, that was incredible.
Then we see Anakin walking into the battle and it flashes and he's Vader again. And I'm like, holy shit. Which to me,
him and Vader.
It proves to me even more that he now is Mortis. He is now the father, just because he has the ability to go back and forth and tap into both sides and remain balanced.
Yeah.
To me, it's too perfect of a setup. Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader, the complete opposite sides of the light and the dark, and his ability to be in the middle. Bro, oh my God, I'm so excited.
I agree. Not to put a damper on everything, but I think the only unfortunate part is we kind of knew what was coming,
Right.
I think there had been so many just like theories of Clone Wars flashbacks and kind of unofficial Hayden and Ahsoka, Hayden and Rosario kind of unofficially confirming that he was in it.
Right.
We very much assumed that Hayden Christensen and Anakin were going to be in it. And I think
we're just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, and I think that did kind of take away from it a little bit, because I remember I was still, when Luke popped up in Mandalorian, I don't think anything will ever top that.
Because it was unexpected.
Yeah,
it was set the bar.
Yes, it was unexpected. We didn't know if they were ever willing to take that risk, to bring back one of this. Especially Luke's a little different because the actor's much older. Mark Hamill's, look, he's not Luke anymore. Like in his young self. So everything just lined up too perfectly for Luke. It like you said, set the bar. And with Anakin, we know that they're willing to test the boundaries. We know that they're willing to use CGI and all this stuff, and we know that they're more than willing to bring back Hayden, which I'm on board with at any point. So I think it does take away a little bit of the surprise factor and just the emotions a little bit. But that doesn't take away from just how awesome it is to actually see it, even though it's going to happen. Alec's furry friend is
God, dude, he's like running around, knocking all my pops over. Like, bro, chill out. Come on, man. We're almost done here.
We're almost done.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. What excites me is now that they've done it, I know they're probably not afraid to do it again.
Yeah.
Right. So like, and I don't think it'll ever be like a super relevant role, because to me, like the whole dialogue and conversation between Anakin and Ahsoka ended.
Muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Could you hear me that whole time though?
Yeah.
Oh, because I asked a couple questions and I didn't know, it didn't sound like you heard.
Say it again.
Anakin, right?
Huh?
You're talking about Anakin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you were talking about him or Luke.
No. I'm talking about the conversation between Anakin and Ahsoka, right? To me, that ended in a perfect way because they went through all this stuff, and it was meant to be kind of vague and confusing a little bit because she's learning a lesson here, and fight for your life. Don't let yourself die. Like if you want to live, you have to fight. She said,
Yeah.
I'm not going to fight you, right? With how many times they physically fought in real life, and their last encounter was, I will avenge his death. Like, holy shit, which, oh my gosh, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Yeah. So the camera, spinning, and all of a sudden he's gone. Right. I just thought that was the coolest ending, like coolest way for her to be, left with her and her thoughts and her ability to like take all that with everything they just went through and like, what's the lesson here? What is he trying to tell me? What is he trying to teach me?
Yes, and that goes back
I
to what
love
we were
that.
about earlier. Like I think Ahsoka grew more in this series, which it's called Ahsoka, so you expect that. But I think you almost expect younger people to have more growth, being Sabine mainly. You expect them to have more growth, but like I said, I think Ahsoka was really the one who made leaps and bounds over where she was because, you know, the lesson that she learned from Anakin made her this current master that we're going to see moving forward, you know?
100%, man.
Ugh.
Oh,
Overall,
so good.
all right, so we have a few minutes left on this Zoom. I want to talk about something really quick, another quick ranking, which we could spend a lot of time on this, but let's just do a quick one. Live action Star Wars. We got Ando and
Ando.
I was thinking Mando. We got Andor, Book of Boba. Hold up. We got Mandalorian, Book of Boba, Kenobi, Andor, and Ahsoka. Am I forgetting any?
Live action. No, I think we're good.
Where are we ranking these? Or where does Ahsoka fall on that list?
So bottom, it's going to be Book of Boba.
Yeah, unfortunately. I enjoyed it.
Unfortunately,
Enjoyed it.
it's still very good.
Yeah.
It's someone's got to be at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Andor,
Really?
dude, it's just everything else is so freaking awesome.
I loved Andor.
I loved Andor too, but does it beat Mando, Ahsoka, or Kenobi?
Yeah,
No,
dude,
it doesn't.
we grew up with the prequels. So you have Mando, which is just started this all, everything,
Right.
brought back Luke, brought in Ahsoka. You have Mando that is just, how can you put something above it? I don't know. It's kind of hard. But you have us that grew up with the prequels, and then you have Andor, which is very heavily rooted in the original
Rebellion.
trilogy, which is
Right.
fine. I fucking love it all. I really do, of course. But it was just so good. But then when you think of Kenobi, you're thinking we're seeing Anakin Skywalker for the first time, and we're seeing Darth Vader again. There's some things that
Probably, in my opinion, top 3 Star Wars fights, I think. Top 5, not top 5, no question. Top 3 debatable between, Obi-Wan and
but
Vader, which
the
was
thing is,
unbelievable.
I think what did it for Kenobi for me, like there were fantastic moments, but the series as a whole wasn't as good as Andor for me.
No, really.
Yeah. Like I loved it. I loved Obi-Wan. I loved getting it back. But Andor had me just connecting with the original trilogy like I don't know if I ever had, like living it in my time. Like I've watched
Yeah.
the original trilogy. I've watched Rogue One is a very similar feeling, which is why I love Rogue One so much.
Love
Like
Rogue One.
that is high on my movie list. So that's why I kind of gotta put Andor a little higher. But let's say out of the 3, let's leave Book of Boba and Andor out of it. Obi-Wan, Kenobi, Mando, and Ahsoka. Like, where do those 3 lie?
It's hard because Mando has multiple seasons.
Yeah, you're right.
And so many things have fallen within Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. Luke, Ahsoka, Grogu.
I would go Ahsoka, Kenobi, Mando.
Really? You think you liked Kenobi better than Ahsoka?
Yes.
Really?
I think yes, I would, and here's why. I think I would rewatch them time and time again, but I felt more emotion, I think, in Kenobi just because of the brotherhood. I feel like I personally related to it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And pulled on my personal heartstrings a little bit more, not a lot more, a little bit more. And it, like, dude, we're talking ranking the elite here.
We're
So like,
splitting hairs. Yeah.
yeah,
Like that.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
get that.
right.
I get that. I think Ahsoka is above Kenobi for me because I think, let me tell you this, if Obi-Wan would have been in a flashback in Ahsoka, if he would have showed up at all in that, be clear cut, because the only thing Ahsoka was missing is
Was Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. But man, I don't know. It's splitting hairs. I don't know how to do it. So I don't mean to leave anybody who's listening still. I don't mean to leave you on a cliffhanger, but like, I can't pick because I love all of them so much.
Yeah, Mando to me is just too big.
Yeah.
It's
And
too
it's
big.
all of this.
Yeah.
Brought back Ahsoka, brought back the opportunity to make Kenobi and Andor, because if Mando doesn't succeed, does the rest of it, you know?
And Grogu is single-handedly one of the biggest icons on the planet.
Yeah. And man, we didn't even talk about how this Ahsoka and all this stuff, the Anakin being the chosen one, how that plays into Grogu and Rey, the new Rey movie, setting up a new Jedi Order. Like, I don't know, man.
Grogu, bro. Grogu.
Dude,
Grogu's the future.
all of it. Yep. I thought Ezra was the future. What if Ezra's training Grogu in the future,
Oh
along
my
with
God.
Kanan and Hera's son, because he's got it in him.
He's something. He said it. I heard you
Yeah.
fighting.
Yes, dude.
And she's like, what? Yeah, did you see her face? She's like,
Yeah,
huh?
dude.
And they just kind of kept walking.
Dino. Yeah. But man, I think I think I don't know. I think this was a really good episode. I think we
Agreed.
got a lot of our thoughts out, and I don't know. I think I got everything out.
If you haven't seen Ahsoka yet, why have you been here this long? If you haven't, go watch it.
Yes. Yes. But everybody, like always, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you tuning in to another episode 89 or 90 or 91, one of the numbers. We appreciate you tuning in. We really hope you enjoyed Ahsoka. If you're a Marvel fan, we hope you're enjoying Loki so far, and we hope that you join us every Thursday night to watch it. We do a reaction, so shortly after you watch the episode, come check it out with us. So we really appreciate you guys joining us. And yeah, go watch Ahsoka if you haven't.
Go watch Ahsoka.
Yes, sir. And we say this all the time, but Alec and our schedules are, knock on wood, they're getting a little thinner. So we will have more time to do the actual podcast on a more consistent basis. So we appreciate you sticking with us throughout the not low times, but the times where we're not around as much. We appreciate you listening, but we will always, always, always be back. And like always, until the next time you are on Carbonite Convos, may the Force be with you.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.